in favor of a city council proposal aimed at reducing coordination between HPD and ICE. We'll discuss this and more of today's top headlines. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman. We'll also talk with UTHealth Houston cardiovascular disease fellow, Dr. Amir Haidar, who will discuss a new study about the impact of ultra-processed foods on heart health.
And I'm Frank Billingsley, plus former University of Houston golfer and PGA Hall of Fame member Jim McLean will tell us all about the glory days of Houston golf with his new book, The Houston Dynasty, Tales from College Golf's Greatest Team.
And as always, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870.
Hello, Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Call, Yvette Cooper condemned what she called Iranian recklessness, which she said was hitting global economic security.
We have seen Iran hijack an international shipping route to hold the global economy hostage.
The focus of the meeting was diplomatic and international planning, but Cooper said military planners would meet next week to consider military capabilities once the fighting stops. Fatima Al-Kassab, NPR News, London.
Additional U.S. troops are now in the Middle East with more on the way. More than 2,000 Marines arrived over the weekend. Another 2,000 are heading there by ship. NPR's Greg Myrie has more.
This expanding force gives President Trump additional options, but these are still relatively small numbers. They could carry out specific limited operations, but it's not nearly enough for a major sustained ground invasion. And neither Trump nor the Pentagon has hinted at the mission, but clearly the most urgent issue is the Strait of Hormuz. So there's speculation that the troops may be part of an effort to try to open the strait for oil tankers.
NPR's Greg Myrie reporting. Last year, Congress gave ICE $45 billion to expand its detention capacity. Now, the Department of Homeland Security is pausing the purchase of new warehouses intended to house immigrant detainees. NPR's Jasmine Garsd reports.
Over the last few months, DHS had been purchasing warehouses across the country to turn into detention centers. That led to intense pushback and lawsuits across the political spectrum. In the mostly conservative town of Williamsport, Maryland, there have been concerns about the environmental impact of a newly announced facility and ethical concerns. The last year has been one of the deadliest on record for Immigration and Customs Enforcement detainees. In recent days, DHS has paused its purchase of new warehouses. In a statement to NPR, a DHS spokesperson said, quote, "As with any transition, we are reviewing agency policies and proposals." Jasmine Garsd, NPR News, New York.
The National Capital Planning Commission is expected to vote today on President Trump's plans for a White House ballroom. Yesterday, a federal judge ordered a halt to construction unless Congress approves the project, which is estimated to cost $400 million. This is NPR News in Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Harab. The astronauts on Artemis II caught up on some sleep today before prepping for the next major milestone in the mission. The Orion spacecraft is in high Earth orbit, thousands of miles away from the Earth, where it will remain until the end of the day. This evening, the crew is expected to shoot for the moon with a translunar injection burn known as TLI, but it's on Houston's mission control to ensure that the spacecraft can handle that maneuver. Here's NASA Flight Operations Director Norm Knight.
We also want to make sure we have redundancy in the system for COM, for environmental life support, propulsion, those type things before we embark on that TLI mission. So that's what the mission control team in Houston will be doing.
NASA says it anticipates the astronauts will do a downlink tonight, speaking to the public about the mission thus far. Average car insurance rates have risen more than 50% across the state since 2022. News 88.7's Andrew Schneider says that is forcing many low to middle income residents to drop their insurance and risk legal penalties.
Approximately 12% of Texas car owners are uninsured. A new study from Texas Appleseed and United Way of Greater Houston finds that for Harris County, that total is more than 14%.
Unless you're married, Caucasian male, living in the burbs, like you're not going to secure the best rate.
Monica Cabrera says she was forced to go without insurance when a divorce sent her premiums skyward.
My insurance went up over $150 per month due to my marital status changing, despite the fact that I had no accidents and nothing changed as far as driving, as far as anything.
Cabrera says she'll have to get new insurance by the end of the month, but she expects the disruption in her coverage means she'll have to pay even more than she did before. I'm Andrew Schneider, News 88.7.
And in sports, the Rockets have won 4 games in a row now. They beat the Bucks 119-113 last night. It was their 4th victory in a row. Houston has just 6 games left in the regular season. They're placed 5th in the West. I'm Matt Harrop, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include FJC, a foundation of donor-advised funds working to maximize the impact of charitable giving and to create customized philanthropic solutions. Learn more at fjc.org.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello,
We're
Houston.
back.
Okay, so much going on today.
I know. It's almost Easter.
No, that's not what we're
talking.
that's not what we're talking about, Frank.
What are you
Do
talking
you
about?
have something you want to say?
And I wasn't the first to say it.
No.
Although our management's known since February that I was going to get to the.
What are you talking about?
I have no idea what you're saying. Yeah.
I wanted to be here for the 1-year anniversry. But if you can, and so I was.
Yes, you were.
But tomorrow will be my last day with Hello Houston.
What?
I know. Okay, follow the bouncing ball.
Okay.
Kevin gets laid off, right after COVID, and did not work for 2 years. And I then, at the end of that 2 years.
Your husband.
My partner, husband. A partner in crime.
Yeah, truly.
So then, so he wasn't working, and I still was. Then I retired from Channel 2, and his old company said, "We need you back." So he said, "Okay, I'll come back." So he started working, and I was not working. I told you, "Ernie, I need help. I'm bored." He said, "Well, guess what we're doing?
We'll ruin your days. Trust me. Come here."
And that was in the fall of 2024, because even though we've only been doing this a year, I've been here a while.
Right.
And so then I started working. So Kevin and I were both, and then he retired again last July. And then I'm still working. So, I mean, we've never been in sync in retirement.
Yeah.
And his next stop is 60. My next stop is 66. And if you count the time in the womb, and 6 out of 9 Supreme Court justices do, I'm already there. So, as you know, they say 60s are your go-go years, 70s are your slow-go years, and then 80s are your no-go years.
I've never heard that. But that's actually
it's
pretty
true,
fabulous.
pretty much.
Yeah.
I know some Kit Kats in their 80s that get around pretty well,
Oh, yeah.
but it's sort of true. And when you look back and you think, well, at 66, I'm closer to 90 than I.
Oh, don't start doing that kind of
than
math.
I am to 40. That's
Well,
for sure.
I have to say, you might not be here every single day, but we're going to have you back on. Frank, definitely in your go
I know, right?
years.
Yeah, of people
Frank
I think
has more
slowing down,
energy
it's not
than
Frank.
anybody that I know. He zooms in, he's ready to go, and you bring so much energy, Frank.
Well,
it is.
thank you.
It is.
We'll have
It's
MC
been
stuff planned through next February.
a
So I'm still going to be out
wonderful-
there emceeing and
Being around.
and that sort of. I'm still around, that's for sure. And yes, if you need me, let me know.
We will have you back
the
on,
full-time
for sure.
schedule.
Totally.
Well,
And
you
I think everybody, Frank, I sit here and I think that there are so many, we call it kind of retirement, but I think that there are so many people, and I say people where you go through different transitions in your life. Like I took pauses in my career and time where I felt like my family needs me when my kids were a little bit younger, and there are times where right now you and Kevin want to spend time together, and I think that's awesome.
I'll probably give us a month. I'll be clawing my way back here.
Oh, yeah, I'm expecting.
We don't like each other that much.
I'm expecting in 6 weeks to get another text from you being, hey, what do you have going on? Is
Anything,
that chair
please
still
find
empty?
find me something. No, I'm excited about it, and we don't have any big things planned. We just.
Well, the news kind of broke yesterday in the Chronicle that this was coming. There was an article that came out, and it left it so vague because you hadn't made an announcement yet. So it sounded real mysterious.
I had told our staff.
Right, but it sounded mysterious. And then I was getting texts, and I know Celeste was getting saying, oh, my God, what's up with Frank? We knew this was coming. You wanted to let the 1-year anniversary pass without stepping on that news by saying your retirement. And so we know it's not scandalous. It's nothing exciting other than...
And then yesterday was
basically,
I know, right?
You are a nightmare to work with.
Yeah,
right, I know.
That's what you're
it's
so
going to be like.
scared
Frank came to work with Ernie. He's like, oh my God, be careful what you wish for.
No, but truly, I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of opportunity to have you back on, Frank. And you're right down the street. We know where to find you.
That's so true. All I talk about is the high rise where I live. So
everyone knows where to find you now.
But today is Thursday, and our current obsessions. We'll have lots of time to talk about this. And if you want to join the conversation, 713-440-8870.
I just want to say, we've known each other, as we've established, for many, many, many years.
Since the 90s.
Since the 90s.
Those were the go-go years, weren't they?
And we went.
You two've never stopped, both of you.
But the joy of getting to work with you every day, we've never had that experience. And I have truly appreciated this last year, getting to know you in a different way. And now we can go back to knowing each other as party boys.
Well, I've learned a lot. No, I mean, I'd never done professional radio, and it's a different.
One day I hope you do.
Stop it! It's a different beast.
Yeah. It is. It's a different
this
muscle.
show, especially, is so nice and intimate.
Yeah.
And we don't know what we don't have a script.
No.
We just get to get up here and talk and listen to our listeners and our viewers and conversations, and it's really a pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
Make no mistake about it. But I have to be here. This is not with our YouTube setup and our cameras. You can't do this from your living room. You have to be here, and that's a schedule, and that's more or less what I need to get away from.
Yeah.
Brandon on YouTube says, also, it would have felt like an April Fool's joke if Frank had announced it yesterday. And we talked about that, too. You had said last night when the article published, you texted me and said, I'm just going to go on the air tomorrow and say it was an April Fool's joke. And it would have been the best joke.
All three of us were on a text. But
we
Frank,
were
to your point, it is. And I think that people don't realize that we really are, we show up every day as ourselves. We are here. It is not super scripted. It's very unscripted.
Yep.
We share a lot on this show, and
that's fun to me.
It's been an honor to sit next to you and be in this year together.
Yeah.
So
mine more than you know.
Yeah.
Another comment comes through. I'm so sad Frank is leaving. No, don't retire. Retire is such a weird word. It makes people think that you're going to go shut yourself away. You are far from that. Plus you have a couple other houses you want to visit and get back and forth with. You go down to Galveston, you go to Puerto Vallarta. This frees you up to be able to do that again.
It does. And there is some family, and they're, of course, much older than me.
Is there much older than you?
Stop it.
Ernie.
They can't travel to Houston, so to see them, I have to travel, and Kevin and I have to travel to them. So he has family in Denton. I have family in California and Arkansas, and so I don't want to say I'm quitting to be closer to family. No.
Yeah, no.
Right.
I think families should arrive for cocktails on Friday and be gone after brunch on Sunday. That's my attitude. It's enough. So,
We still have you for 2 more days.
Well, today and tomorrow.
Right, that's 2 more days.
And I have a phone, so when I hear you saying something I don't agree with,
Lord,
I'm going to call.
Well, we did have Sean Radigan on YouTube say he's going to set you up with cameras, so you can also zoom in
there you
anytime you want.
There you go.
But since we have you for 2 more days, what's the weather like, Frank?
I'm still watching that Easter weekend, aren't we? I mean, it is up on the doorstep. And I was looking at we're getting more micro models, which are always a little tighter and better than the global models, which sort of paint a broad stroke. But they only go out really to Saturday. But into Saturday, like we had yesterday, a few showers. That's what we're seeing for the next couple of days. I think tomorrow and Saturday, a couple of showers. But then Saturday night into Sunday morning, this line of rain comes through.
Now, I don't know if I've misunderstood or I didn't see, but the governor has activated for the state of Texas an alert or a warning about weather coming up. Is that for more of the state, our area in particular? Who's seeing bad weather coming?
I think it's more for the north of us.
Okay.
But it's a front. It's a spring cold front. And when you get that, you have the potential for severe weather. And that, given what happened last July, I think the governor should be elevated in our awareness. Mm-hmm. We all should be. And we've all learned that weather can change on a dime, especially in Texas.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's just smarter to be safe and pay attention and be weather aware.
Right.
Yeah.
And we did receive a very nice YouTube comment from Barb Smith, who says, I just moved back to Houston, was so happy to discover we had Frank back in a public forum, and now I'm losing him again.
Oh, not losing. You just have to find where he goes next. He's like a little whack-a-mole, whack-a-Frank. He's going to pop up somewhere else. Just when you think you got him, he disappears again. Speaking of things popping up, not exactly popping, but Artemis went up last night.
I watched it. I loved it. I was very nervous. Were you nervous?
I was. It was weird. I mean, I believe that all of this stuff has been so worked out, but in that moment and flashbacks and stuff happening and all that fuel and these people in this little teeny capsule. Yeah, I was.
And we were used to, watching the rockets and the spacecrafts go up. So we kind of knew what to expect when.
Yeah.
And this one was a whole new ball game. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really know how it was going to look. So when it started looking different, I was like, is that good? Is that bad? Where are we? So I was really glad to just listen to what they told me.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I watched it with my kids, and I was surprised at how emotional I felt. Yeah. And I think that it was just kind of, we were returning to this moment in history. And then also, as y'all mentioned, just seeing the scale of everything, when they showed the engines and the fire rowing up and the rocket to launch, and I was listening to it, and I really did feel like I was sharing in this human achievement that we were all a part of, and to share it with my kids and watching it, and also holding our breath. Right?
Absolutely.
Holding our breath and just praying and saying, Lord, please be with these astronauts, please be. And then when they chimed into Houston and they said Houston, I don't remember exactly the words, but they mentioned Houston, and I knew that everything that was happening was being controlled right here in our city. I felt so proud of Houston, and also just to see that happen.
It's so cool to have such a diverse group of those 4 astronauts, a woman, African-American, a Canadian. And an American. Just they're heroes. Yeah. And I hope that will help bring us all together again a little bit.
Yes, and there's that element of hope, right? Because I was sitting there talking to my kids, and of course, my 5-year-old Philip was like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. I want to be an astronaut for Halloween, and this is really cool. And so we're watching this science happening, and Evelyn's like, my 10-year-old daughter's like, I absolutely would never want to go to space. But she goes, I would love to be the one talking to them.
There you go.
And so we started talking about those dynamics and how there is a role, and so many people played a role in that moment. And so to be able to watch it together really felt incredible.
It's funny when you mentioned the Halloween costume, because growing up as kids, an astronaut was a big Halloween costume.
Yes.
A lot of kids had. My brother had one of those. He wore it year after year. He just loved that whole concept of space out there. What struck me about it was there was one point, one commentator, a past astronaut, was talking on the news about this and said, when you're up there and you look back at the Earth and you realize it's sitting there alone, just floating out there, and you don't see borders and you don't see separation, we're all in this together, to realize all of our petty problems we fight about on this planet, we need to preserve this planet and know this is our home all in one. And so it's a wonderful, like you mentioned, that unifying feeling. You get that perspective when you see it from space.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see more television. By television, I mean what you watch on your wall, whatever that is, with space. Because we grew up with Star Trek and Lost in Space.
Yeah,
and
then, very space time.
And all Close Encounters of the Third Kind and all of those space movies. And you don't really see that much anymore.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
And I think that
E.T. was amazing. You know?
Right. Well, and there was a level of kind of deep appreciation for exploration. Like here they were going out of the earth to explore space and look at the moon. And I think we've lost a little bit of that kind of
wonder.
Yeah. That's a perfect word.
And when you go through those space programs, they were about understanding and coming together, learning about different people, how we can work with them, kind of. Where today, when we look at space stuff, it's all space wars, fighting between different factions. So I'm wondering if this new exploration period we're going into will lead us back to space as a wonder of learning about people as opposed to separating.
Right. And I mentioned to Dan that we all watched, and he was like, oh, I love that our kids were getting to see science at its best. These are all engineers. And I thought that's true. This is science. I mean, they're all research engineers and educators. And so I think it was just a really beautiful moment.
And look at the background of knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean, the men and women who can put that. I mean, when they talk about rocket science, it is rocket science.
Yes, right.
And it is hard. It is hard, and it's exact, and it's brilliant. I mean, it is brilliant. And to think about what they have been able to accomplish, they don't just put it together with tape and rubber bands.
No.
It's probably a team working on just the helmet, and another team for just the gloves, another team for just the space belts. It's just talk about all of that knowledge coming together
on display on such a grand scale. And then the other thing, I was watching some of the coverage, and they started talking about showing the astronauts arriving. They're saying, goodbye to their families, and I got really emotional because a lot of these astronauts have children, 3 or 4 children, that they were giving them hugs and saying goodbye. And we'll be back. But there's also that risk.
Well, a couple things we've been talking about. We talked with Michael Atkinson, who was there, and we had great coverage right here on Houston Public Media yesterday. If you were watching on the YouTube stream, you were one of tens of thousands of people. Almost 100,000 people were watching what we put out yesterday of that launch. Oh, excuse me. I get a little choked up here. But my favorite quote I heard yesterday was, think about all the pieces, all the mechanics, all the elements, and all of that came together from the lowest bidders. And I thought, oh my God, because in NASA contracts, you go for the lowest pay because you don't want to pay the most money. And so all of the attention put into making sure every little thing works, and the numbers of people and the amount, like the slowdowns yesterday as we got to within the hour, and then it was getting closer. There was concern about a system, and it was simply a thermostat on a battery that they had to make sure was right. And you think of something so small as that when you look at the monumental task in front of them. It amazes me.
Well, and the person who designed that is the person or persons who have to fix it. Know? So you have to have this huge number of people who are not only brilliant, but dedicated to what they do.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you define hero. I've often thought that when people step up, no matter where and no matter who, when people step up to do something that makes the world a better place, when they don't have to do that, that makes them a hero. And they come in all shapes and sizes. From Sam yesterday, who stepped up to create a basketball league for people that are otherwise disserviced, to the astronauts and the brilliance of them. We have heroes in our midst all the time. And that's what should hold us together, that we're all out there trying to make this world a better place. And if you're one of them, God bless you.
Well, looking at the astronauts, too, and I'm thinking to myself, we've lived through many space disasters where things didn't go right. And you think each of these people, those 4, made the choice that they're going to try and make a betterment, to learn more, to explore at the risk of their own lives.
They raise their hand.
There are risks.
Yeah, and one of the things that NASA was doing during their coverage yesterday was also they started showing, 1961, we went to this, launch, and we did, and I saw the way the astronauts back then looked so flimsy. Like I was like, that's it? We sent them to space just like that? I was like, I don't know. If like, wow. But then back then it must have looked, like that was what it should look like. And I thought to myself, just wait, imagine 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, what the future holds.
And remember, in those first missions, the computer systems they had were less advanced than what we used to have in a personal calculator. That was more advanced than the technology they had. Yeah. And they did the impossible. And now today, as we talked with also Michael about this, all of the technology they were using is all new. They have been developed. It's not they just remounted something we had done 50 years ago. These are freshly designed, new concepts, new technologies, new source. It's just, like you said, Frank, it boggles the mind.
Absolutely. And Braden Arnold says, if you want a new movie about space exploration, watch Project Hail Mary. I've heard that's a great movie.
I haven't seen that yet. I want to get out and see it.
We're definitely going to go see it. But coming up on Hello Houston, we'll learn about a new study about the impact of ultra-processed foods on heart health. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Meet Dio Choco. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. This is his story. Visit ridemetro.org/Choco to find out where is Choco.
Stream more of the shows you love anytime. It only takes a few minutes to make a big difference. Become a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Death Valley sage lives where a lot of people don't, in the forbidding mountains in and around its namesake.
They either require quite a bit of hiking or scrambling up mountains or driving on back roads.
But an unusually big bloom this year presented an opportunity for one botanist who's been searching for the plant's seeds for more than 15 years. That story on All Things Considered from NPR News.
You can hear that this afternoon at 3 o'clock. I'm Jesse Thorne. You want some real, insightful conversations about where art comes from? Well, Bullseye has you covered, as long as you don't mind a little bit of ridiculousness.
Y'all was like really judging me though.
They sniffed it out. They sniffed out that I was weird.
I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna sit, just like in the movies.
Listen, learn, laugh. Bullseye from Maximum Fun and NPR.
Bullseye, Thursdays at 10 p.m. on News 88.7. Support comes from Pearland, a community dedicated to growing innovative businesses and inspiring families, offering a diverse workforce, modern infrastructure, and schools, parks, and more. Details at pearlandedc.com. Pearland, innovation lives here.
Support comes from Twin Liquors, a Texas family-owned home for wine and spirits since 1937. With over 100 locations across the state, Twin Liquors is proud to be part of the community. Orders available online at twinliquors.com for delivery or pickup.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
A new study led by a fellow at UTHealth Houston is raising concerns about the impact of ultra-processed foods on heart health. Researchers found that consuming just 9 servings a day can significantly increase the risk of heart disease, and that risk is nearly doubled among Black Americans. Joining us now to break down the findings of the study is Dr. Amir Haidar, a cardiovascular disease fellow at UTHealth Houston. Dr. Haidar, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with the basics. What does this 9 servings mean? Tell me what 9 servings I need to stay away from.
Yeah, so first I like to break down what are ultra-processed foods, so everyone has an idea. And what you commonly hear are ultra-processed foods. You go into the grocery store, it's all those foods in the middle aisle. So they're hyper-palatable, usually prepackaged foods that are industrially modified with chemicals, and they usually have added sugars, added fats. And so Americans' diets are high in ultra-processed foods. Looking at studies, you usually see that most Americans consume anywhere between 8 to 12, on average, ultra-processed foods per day. So in our study, when we looked at the consumption of ultra-processed foods, those in the top 20th 20% of the highest consumers consumed about 9 servings per day, compared to 1 serving in the bottom 20%. And when you compared those in the top 20% had a 67% higher risk of having heart disease than those in the lower 20%.
But I guess our understanding of what a serving size is, what actually is that? Because I'm sure I see a box that has 4 servings and I think it's 1 serving.
No, exactly. And so that is very common. And it's exactly also why in 2016, the USDA, they updated the nutrition facts label. So 1 serving could be a bottle of Gatorade. It could be a protein bar, depending on the type of food that you're consuming. So it's variable per item.
Could you get 3 on your plate? I mean, 3 ultra-processed foods on your plate. Like you think you're eating a protein and a vegetable and a carb, but if you don't get them from the right place, you might have 3 bad things on your plate.
Definitely. So you could think of like chicken nuggets, for example.
Yeah.
Chicken nuggets, ultra processed.
With the sauce.
With the sauce.
Maybe 2.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the
Chicken
serving
nuggets.
size of chicken nuggets are,
It's
usually like
chicken
6 chicken nuggets. I know personally, if I'm eating chicken nuggets, I'm not eating just 6. Plus, you're right. You incorporate whatever sauce you're using. Well, you're already at 3 servings right there.
Right. That's
Right.
what I was
That's
trying to
just
get
for
down
dinner.
to. So if you can't read what's on the label, you're already in trouble.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I am curious, why do you think we're getting ultra processed foods are getting so much attention right now? It seems like this is very topical.
It is. And one of the main reasons why I think it's come to light in recent years is there's been a lot of research towards it.
Yeah.
So before my study, there was a lot of studies published in Europe, actually, that showed an increased risk with heart disease. There was another study showing an increased risk with colon polyps and colon cancer.
Yes.
And I also just think the prevalence of it and this push towards, trying to eat healthy and improve our diets, we just see it. They're just so prevalent. I tell my patients there's no escaping ultra-processed foods. They're everywhere.
So then what makes them so harmful?
I would say it's a combination of things. One is there is one clinical trial currently on ultra-processed foods. It was done by Kevin Hall at the NIH, and he showed that when people consumed ultra-processed foods, they were more likely to consume more calories, more likely to gain weight. And so they're very hyperpalatable and not satiating. So you're more likely to eat a lot because these companies make these foods for profit. So you're more likely they want you to eat a lot of food and continue eating it without feeling full. And so that's one of the worst things about them is they're not nutrient dense.
So take us on the road of how this goes to heart. Because obviously food, it's pretty obvious that your intestines and your stomach are affected. So is it a domino effect of weight gain to heart health or something else that I'm not seeing here?
No, that's one of them. And I'm actually working on another study looking at what mediates that relationship. So that's a great question. We found this association, ultra-processed foods, increased risk for heart disease. Why? What some preliminary analysis has showed and what a lot of people are hypothesizing is one is weight gain. So consuming ultra-processed foods specifically leads to visceral adiposity. And then what that means is just like stomach fat, really. It's that fat in between your organs that we know and has been established to be bad for you, lead to increased risk for heart disease. And a second component is inflammation. Ultra-processed foods are very inflammatory, and inflammation is also a driver of plaque buildup in the arteries around our heart. And we know this from other studies. So it's probably going to be a combination of a few of those things that drive this risk.
Let me ask then about what ultra-processed foods are in regards to, is it the chemicals that preserve these things? Is it the salts and fats in them? Where does the problem lie? And is there a way to make shelf-stable foods that aren't unhealthy?
That is a great question, and it highlights the lack of research we have in this area. So currently, all of the studies that are done on this are done like how we did our study. We have food frequency questionnaires that are administered throughout, like in our case, throughout the country, part of a national data set. And then we look at the questions and look at which foods are ultra processed. And then we ran an analysis to look at this. However, there are currently no studies that have looked at the degree of processing. So in our manuscript or in our paper we published, we actually put that in a whole paragraph on future directions, that we need to look at what exactly is it. Because one thing I can say for certain is we know in ultra-processed foods, the overconsumption and the added fats and added sugars, the macronutrients, increase your risk and are unhealthy for you, lead to diabetes, etc. But we don't have any research that shows what exactly about the processing of ultra-processed foods does to the body and how that influences health.
Well, but we always hear back in the day, and our grandparents and the way they ate, or our parents, but their foods back then were full of sugar, full of butter, full of Crisco. If you didn't eat everything on your plate, you didn't get dessert, and you got dessert every night. So if we went back to that sort of purest way, I'm not sure there's a win.
No, and then also it comes with like varying degrees, because people were also more active as well. And so we've seen over the years too, people have become more sedentary.
Right.
And then also, just jumping back to your point, I want to specify that there's a difference between processed food and ultra processed food. And the example I like to give is like chicken or corn, right? So you have fresh frozen chicken or fresh frozen corn, not processed, minimally processed. You have canned corn or like ground chicken. That's technically processed. But it's easy to consume. You can buy ground chicken right now at HEB, and it's relatively inexpensive, and overall it's still not that bad for you. But then you have ultra processed, which are, like I mentioned, the chicken nuggets or Fritos, corn chips, right? You see how we went from Whole Foods to something that's not even really resembling what it was originally. And so there is still a degree of processing that is okay and that is not detrimental to health. It's usually that ultra processing category where things usually
now,
take
Dr.
a turn.
Haidar, I do want to talk about something. One of the most striking findings are the disparities that you all saw. Can you talk to us about why that might be, and what I believe that the risk is nearly doubled among Black Americans. What is happening there?
Yeah. So how we came up with this was, my first mentor at the UT School of Public Health was actually on the 2025 Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee. And they released a report their scientific report saying, we need to look at this relationship in the United States amongst diverse populations, accounting for race, sex, income. And so that's what we did. We looked at it. And the main significant finding we found was that Black Americans, like you mentioned, had double the risk. So now you ask yourself, why? Well, we know in cardiovascular research, cardiovascular health disparities are largely driven by social determinants of health. And so we also know that these social determinants of health are largely driven by structural and historical racism and policies that we've had in this country over the past decades. So given all this, we also know because of these policies and because of community divestment, all you have to do is go on the other side of 288 and you can see the difference between West Houston and South Houston. We know that Black Americans are more likely to live in unfavorable nutrition environments, more likely to be food insecure. And then another aspect of that is the Rudd Center in Connecticut, it's a nutrition policy institution, came out with a report a few years ago that actually showed that food and beverage companies disproportionately target minorities, Black and Hispanic, children, adolescents, and Americans with advertising and marketing for unhealthy food and beverages. Because in the early 2000s, the history behind this is interesting, because in the early 2000s, it was predominantly affluent Americans, white Americans, but then, it's all about driving profit. So most of these minorities ate a lot of home-cooked meals. A lot of their culture was not consuming ultra-processed foods.
Right.
Well, that was an avenue in which they could start advertising and pushing. And so we've actually seen an increase over the years. So I think that association specifically was a result of all of those things I just mentioned, a combination of all of those factors.
Let me ask this. It's kind of an odd question, but when you look then at the disproportionality and you see that it affects the African-American or Black communities more, over time, does that impact genetically? Over time then, having exposure to this, does it make them more susceptible to these?
I would say no. Okay. And that's something the medical community just in general has gone away from. I think there used to be this old thought that genetic predispositions or there was some inherent biological differences that drove these associations. I can confidently say, and the research shows, that a lot of these disparities and these health differences that we see are largely policy driven and largely driven by social determinants of health. And so, maybe living in these areas might have some environmental impact that might affect genetics, but it wouldn't change how I go about this or how we go about treating this issue.
So let me ask you about GLP-1s, the Zipics and the tirzepatide. So they can make you eat less, but if you're still eating the wrong things, maybe do they really work, or do they?
They're even more
in terms of
unhealthy.
heart health? Are you kidding yourself?
So one of my biggest issues with the GLP-1s is I think they've been amazing in what they've been able to do to help a lot of people. But if you actually look at the clinical trials that are done on GLP-1s, all of it is plus a lifestyle intervention.
Right.
So they look at lifestyle plus GLP-1s. And so obviously if you're not exercising and eating healthy, you will still see some benefit from taking a GLP-1. However, I'm extremely concerned that we have all these people on GLP-1s, and in addition to fat loss, they're losing muscle as well.
Right.
And so I tell all of my patients I either start on a GLP-1 or who are taking a GLP-1 that you have to be making the lifestyle modifications, improving your diet and weight training.
What about 10,000 steps? I keep reading walking will save your life, and then I read, well, you got to do more than that.
I mean, walking, it'll be great. I tell all my patients it's individual.
Yeah.
I go on a patient-by-patient basis. If I have someone who's not active at all, getting 10,000 steps walking is an achievable goal and something that I would highly recommend and I'm going to encourage. However, if I have a patient who's already, pretty active, but, are overweight or obese and I know they can knock out 10,000 steps, then, I'm going to make their goals a little bit more intense for them.
Right. And so Dr. Haidar, but, kind of moving back into the heart health and ultra-processed foods area, what are some realistic steps that somebody could do to really reduce their risk? Well, where is that balance? I mean, cutting it all out, but like you said, you can't.
That's an excellent question. And when I've been talking about this research, that's one of the first things I say. I never recommend to any of my patients, you need to cut out all of these foods. It's unrealistic. Like I said earlier, ultra-processed foods are everywhere. I eat ultra-processed foods. But what I first recommend to everybody is to keep a log, either on an app or on paper, of what you consume in a day. How much of your diet consists of ultra-processed foods versus whole foods? How much of the calories you're eating in a day come from added fats and added sugars? You first need to have a good understanding of what your overall diet looks like. We do this with every medical condition. When our patients have high blood pressure, we tell them, keep a log of your blood pressure at home and come back to us. So I tell all my patients, and I think everyone at home or listening can do this. Have an idea, because you'd be surprised by how much you're consuming. And so you don't have to go crazy, but have at least 1 to 3 days of this is what I'm consuming in a day. Once you do that, then you can see what are some foods that I really, really like versus foods that I can swap out.
You say 9 servings. So what if I eat 8? Then I'm healthy? What if I eat 7?
No, I would say based off where you're at, depending on how many you eat, try to cut down as much as you can. So when you're making that list, if you notice I have to have these 3 or 4 foods, or I really, really want to have these 3 or 4 foods, sure. But if you're consuming 10 servings and you cut down to 4, that's great. It's a dose-response relationship. So the more you eat, the more your risk is. But one other thing I'll note is when you're looking at what you're consuming and making these decisions, pay attention to the nutrition facts label and the ingredient list, because what you'll notice is some ultra-processed foods have more added sugars. And an example I like to give is like Greek yogurt. So if you buy the Oikos Greek yogurt at the grocery store, That's actually technically classified as ultra processed, but has 0 grams of added sugar, good amount of protein. So is that really going to be the option I decide to take out of my diet? No. But if I'm consuming the one with 15 grams of added sugar, that is my recommendation. Make that replacement from the one with added sugars to the one without added sugars.
You alluded to this at the beginning, too. It's shop the perimeter of the grocery store as opposed to the center. Are we still finding ultra-processed foods all along the perimeter snuck in?
They can be. Because a lot of times, I'm just thinking back to our local HEB. That's where I go. And so I noticed
where you know.
Yeah, you still have like the yogurt section. So obviously within the yogurt section, like I just mentioned, you have items that are better than others. You have a lot of the refrigerated items. So you have all of the processed meats. So it still takes some sorting through and being cognizant and paying attention to, so you don't accidentally or you don't consume those ultra processed foods.
So should you shop the perimeter of the liquor store? You mentioned corn, that's how we made our whiskey back in the day. Alcohol, I think, is deceiving. There are lots of different calories and lots of different effects, especially on heart health. Have you looked at that as well?
I personally haven't, but the research and the literature has looked at it extensively.
Some people say a red wine a day. Some people say no.
I recommend no alcohol. There's no real safe amount of alcohol. I would never tell my patient it's okay to drink, but honestly, it's within context.
Right.
If you're having a glass of wine every once in a while, I'm not going to say you need to cut that immediately. And that's like the joy you get, a glass of wine every Thursday. It's in the context of your own health and your own diet. If you're consuming 2 glasses every single day, I'm going to say, hey, that is quite a bit. And if we look at your labs and your cholesterol and other risk factors you have, then I'll make a recommendation and probably ask, let's see how we can adjust this. But overall, we know consuming large amounts of alcohol is pretty much not good for any organ system in your body.
Yeah. And there goes smoking.
Smoking long.
That's long.
I mean, we got a lot of guests on here. They always say, "Don't drink, don't smoke, and walk every day."
Yep.
Overall, as a nation, so much as I think even Celeste mentioned earlier, there's been a lot of attention on all of this. Have we gotten healthier? Have we paid attention? Or have we gotten worse? It seems like the news is always saying, oh my God, we're out of control. We've had all this knowledge, all this information, all you great doctors coming out and saying, do this and that. Have we listened?
No. Short answer, no. I will say a large portion of this, and it's one of the hardest things, because I come in and individual patients, I tell them, here's what you can do. But at the end of the day, I also understand it's really difficult to make these changes when we don't have the policies to back it. So my background is in public health, and I've worked in health policy, and policy is the #1 driver of change, especially in this country. And the reason ultra-processed foods are so prevalent are because we haven't instituted the policies to actually incorporate more whole foods, more fruits and vegetables. Our policy's largely been on keeping the status quo.
One more question, since you mentioned health policy too. The new move to limit what people can get that are on assistance when it comes to the type of foods. Is that a good direction to be going in, or are we missing the boat there too?
No, I think we're drastically missing the boat there. When you look at the people who are on assistance, limiting their options, what are we really doing? We're not really getting to a root cause of what actually is going on. Our food we eat in this country is actually largely driven by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and farming policy, because our farming policy has been for decades, you go back, largely reliant on corn, wheat, soy. So how are you going to diversify what you eat when you're mass producing corn? So we don't incentivize diversity of crops. It's all commodity crops that we can mass produce. So if you really get into the weeds of this, it's actually really fascinating, because it goes back all the way to World War II.
We'll have to
and
have
our
you back
farming
to take
policy
us
to
back
talk
to
about
all of that. Yeah.
Dr. Amir Haidar is a cardiovascular disease fellow at UTHealth Houston. Dr. Haidar, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
And coming up, a legendary golfer is going to tell us about his college days. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Meet Damola, songwriter, world-class violinist, and award-winning multi-genre artist. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. Visit ridemetro.org/Damola to learn more about his ride.
Politics is us versus them all the time. And so if you're just focused on conservatives, it doesn't really get us there.
Benji Backer, nature is nonpartisan. On the next Climate One.
You can hear that Sunday morning at 6 a.m.
I'm Scott Tong. House and Senate leaders announced a deal on Homeland Security funding, but then the House failed to act on the bill. Their inaction extends a partial government shutdown till at least Monday. While TSA and ICE agents are getting paid, thousands of other DHS employees have been without a check for more than a month. Next time, Here and Now.
It starts at 1 p.m.
Relive the Grand Tour. They would take fencing lessons, they would take dancing lessons, they would be introduced to court.
Use new technology to arrange your travels.
You might be hearing about visa waiver programs that have come in Europe recently.
And see what's new at Barcelona's Sagrada Familia.
It's a shiny new object in the skyline of the city. In fact, the highest.
On the next Travel with Rick Steves.
Tomorrow morning at 6 a.m.
What I've always tried to do in my music is just tell the truth.
Who am I really?
Get into the minds of some of the world's most creative people.
Totally exploring their ideas.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you everything.
The Arts Hour brings you the finest arts and culture conversation from across the BBC and beyond.
It's the variety. That's the world that interests me.
The Arts Hour from the BBC.
Fridays at 10 p.m. and Saturdays at 11 p.m. on News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Drexel University, an R1 research institution according to the Carnegie Classification, affirming Drexel's commitment to experiences that positively impact society. More at drexel.edu.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro, introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro fare system replaces the Metro Q fare card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
From 1968 to 73, Jim McLean played for the University of Houston, where Coach Dave Williams had created the greatest golf dynasty in NCAA history. Dozens of highly competitive young golfers throughout thought they'd be a starter, but with 40 players on the team, they battled for 5 spots, so they very few actually qualified. As part of Houston's #1 college golf program, PGA Hall of Fame member Jim McLean now digs into the past to tell us all about the glory days of Houston golf with his new book, The Houston Dynasty, Tales from College Golf's Greatest Team. Joining us now to tell us more is the author of The Houston Dynasty, Tales from College Golf's Greatest Team, Jim McLean. Jim, how are you today? Welcome to Hello Houston.
Well, it's great. It's great to be with you, and I certainly miss Houston. I can't always anxious to get back to Houston. We had great times there, and it's great friends in Houston, Texas.
Yeah. So, Jim, take us back to those years. What did it feel like to be part of that University of Houston golf program, really at its peak?
Well, Coach Dave Williams was one of the greatest recruiters, was the greatest coach of all time. He recruited across the United States. I came from Seattle, Washington, but we had a lot of players from, different states came together. We had 40 of us started. We were in Baldwin House with the University of Houston basketball team. They were gone 35-0 the year before and played the famous Astrodome game against UCLA the year before.
You know what? I'm going to pause you right there for a second. We're having a little trouble with the line, Jim. We're going to try and get back to you, and we'll continue with you, okay? Hold on one second. They're going to try and reconnect with you. As you're listening, you heard
back. My father was on the University of Arkansas golf team.
Yeah, you were mentioning that.
There were only 4 of them when he played back in the 49 to 53.
Yeah.
1949 to 53. But his golf partner was Miller Barber, who that's not going to ring a bell with
Miller?
You. But it might with Jim. Jim might know that name because Miller Barber played on the circuit as a pro, made a living, and then became a professional at one of the golf clubs. I think maybe in Tyler, Texas, but was here in Texas. I can't remember. I should probably Wikipedia him before I start talking about him.
Yeah.
But, my dad died with a 6 handicap. He was a heck of a player.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's why I often think when we think of college sports, the ones that get all the attention, we don't usually think of the golf team. And they really had carved a niche out for this. And looking at this, and I want to ask him about, I hope we can get him back on the line too in just a moment, is the whole sense of like Hunger Games, it feels like. Jim, are you back with us there?
Yes, I am.
Much better line. We were just chatting, and I was just saying to my cohorts here, the whole concept of this being like Hunger Games, it almost feels like 40 players for 5 spots. Who's going to get it? Who's going to not? How did that work in reality?
Well, it was a super competitive situation. We played all over all over Houston, Texas. Coach set it up so we could play the different courses around Texas, and you would get into a qualifying to move up into a new qualifying to get to the best qualifying where you had a chance to play. If the guys played and won at a tournament, they would be exempt. There would be maybe not. So as a freshman, it was, crazy tough. And then as a sophomore, you had a much better chance if you could hang in there. Most of the guys that I came in with left and went to another school where they had a chance to play. It was a dog-eat-dog situation for sure. But, it gave me a chance to play with some tremendous players who went on to be Hall of Fame tour players and also to play on an NCAA championship team.
Hey, Jim, I was bragging about my dad. He was on the University of Arkansas golf team with Miller Barber. Does that name ring a bell?
Of course it does. Yeah, absolutely. Crazy golf swing, one of the great players on the PGA Tour. He was a sensational player.
Yeah, my dad always bragged about him. And he would go and follow him when he would play in some of the bigger tournaments. He would follow him around the course as he played. They remained friends till Miller Barber's death in 2013.
Yeah. And Jim, you mentioned Coach Dave Williams, and he's such a central figure in this story. What made his coaching style so effective during this time?
Well, I think it was just his ability to, when we played, everybody had to shoot a score every day. So no matter where you played, you shot a score, and you got used to playing in tough conditions all over different golf courses and playing with really good players. So you get to just man up, or you were out of there basically. And most people didn't make it. Now, coming into this next week with the Masters, Jim Nance and Freddie Couples lived together at the University of Houston, and Freddie ended up winning the Masters and was the number 1 player in the world. And then Jim, of course, is probably the greatest announcer in the history of the game. And Jim wrote the forward for me in this. So I would say that all of us that played at Houston on those golf teams, we have a real kindred spirit. Those guys came a little bit after me. But whenever we get together, there's all of these crazy stories that happened during our 4 years at Houston.
Unfortunately, with the phone line issue and stuff, we're really tight on time here. But really quickly, you wrote this book. What do you want people to take away from it?
Well, I think if you played on a team, any kind of team, high school, college, you have your friends, you have these stories you've done together, you've played together. And I just brought together a lot of these unbelievable stories that happened throughout my college time as we tried to, win these national championships. But so many crazy things happened at Houston, and it's just a team sport, and that's what I was trying to get across.
Thank you, Jim.
Jim, again, thanks for joining us on Hello Houston. Coming up, we're going to continue discussing today's top headlines. We're also going to share our latest current obsession, so be sure to send yours in. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
It was a historic day, the first sitting president to be in the Supreme Court courtroom for an oral argument and to be sitting there as the justices were debating birthright citizenship.
I'm Michael Barbaro. That's Today on the Daily from the New York Times.
You can hear it tonight at 7 o'clock.
Houston Public Media is licensed to the University of Houston system, governed by the UH Board of Regents. Information about open meetings, dates, times, and locations is online at uhsystem.edu.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, the city of Houston could soon rename Cesar Chavez Boulevard in honor of Dolores Huerta, who co-founded the United Farm Workers Union alongside Chavez. We'll discuss this and more of the top headlines of the day. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman. We'll also hear my interview from CERAWeek S&P Global about AI and the workforce.
And I'm Ernie Manous. We'll also discuss the latest things that have been taking over all of our free time as part of our regular Thursday feature, Current Obsessions. And we want to know yours.
That's right. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
82 degrees. This is your NPR station, KUHF Houston News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12:01.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. The White House is outlining the next steps toward ending the war with Iran. In a national address last night, President Trump outlined what he considers accomplished objectives in the conflict, which is now in its second month. NPR's Dee Parvez has been tracking the response from the Iranian government.
In a speech updating the nation on the war with Iran, President Trump said that the conflict would end soon, but that U.S. strikes on Iran would intensify over the next 2 to 3 weeks. He also said this:
"We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong."
There has yet to be an official response from Iran, but response from some officials on social media was swift and sharp. For instance, Saeed Majed Mousavi, the aerospace commander for Iran's Revolutionary Guard, wrote on X, "You, with your paltry 250-year-old history, threaten a civilization over 6,000 years old." The X account belonging to the Consulate General of the Islamic Republic of Iran in Mumbai posted, "They said Iran needed to be great again. Now suddenly the goalpost is the Stone Age? Funny thing, civilizations that go back to empires like the Achaemenids don't really do again, they just are." Shortly after President Trump's speech, in which he also claimed that Iran's military capabilities were destroyed, Iran launched a series of missiles at Israel and Bahrain. Dee Parvez, NPR News, Vaughan, Turkey.
House Speaker Mike Johnson will attempt to get Republicans to back a bipartisan deal to fund all of the Department of Homeland Security except its immigration enforcement teams. NPR's Eric McDaniel has more.
Speaker Johnson last Friday panned the proposal that he's now asking Republicans to support.
This gambit that was done last night is a joke.
They voted down that plan from the Senate, and now he'll have to ask his members to support the same deal. It funds DHS immediately, except for ICE and parts of Customs and Border Protection. So folks like airport security can be paid in the short term, while a bigger 3-year deal is worked out to fund all of DHS through the remainder of Trump's time in the White House. And thanks to a parliamentary maneuver called reconciliation, that long-term deal shouldn't need any support from Democrats. First, though, Johnson has to convince hardline Republicans that he's no longer joking. Eric McDaniel, NPR News, Washington.
The Commerce Department says the U.S. trade deficit widened in February to just over $57 billion. Imports and exports both increased during the month, but as NPR's Scott Horsley reports, imports rose more.
The news comes a year to the day after the president ordered double-digit tariffs on virtually everything Americans buy from other countries. What Trump called Liberation Day tariffs were later struck down by the Supreme Court. Customs officials are now working on a process to refund $166 billion that was wrongly collected.
That's NPR's Scott Horsley reporting. On Wall Street, the Dow is down 189 points. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Artemis II successfully launched from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Now Houston's Johnson Space Center takes control of overseeing the mission. News 88.7's Michael Atkinson explains what's in store for the first 24 hours of the mission.
3, 2, 1, booster ignition, and liftoff.
Within seconds, Artemis II's rockets pushed it to supersonic speeds. Within hours, the Orion spacecraft is now in high Earth orbit, farther than NASA has been in decades. It's going to spend much of the day Friday in this orbit, leading up to a crucial decision expected Friday evening to decide whether the crew is go for moving toward the moon. It's an exhaustive day for the 4 astronauts. NASA Flight Operations Director Norm Knight explains how Houston's mission control works with that.
And the mission control team is great because they're watching the crew constantly. They're watching their performance. And we also have a crew that's very good at saying, hey, enough's enough.
It's possible, though not necessarily likely, that NASA may decide not to shoot for the moon and instead return to the Earth. The mission management team will make that call Friday evening. I'm Michael Atkinson, News 88.7.
Harris County has released a revamped dashboard this week detailing county jail statistics. The dashboard is updated every day and discloses statistics about demographics, charges, and trends inside the Harris County Jail. Tanya Mills is the head of Justice Innovation in the County Administration Office.
The population is pretty stable right now. The average length of stay is being managed. Our court partners are working very, very diligently at helping us keep the time to disposition down.
There are currently more than 8,300 inmates inside the Harris County Jail. 77% of those inmates have been flagged with mental health issues, according to the dashboard. More than 1,000 inmates in custody are currently being housed in jails outside of the county. The dashboard can be accessed on the Harris County website. It's 80 degrees and overcast on the University of Houston campus, about a 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms later today. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their client's interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss. This is NPR.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
Seems the biggest story of the day is right here on our anchor desk.
Oh, come on. We were talking about, all of that, and I said that Kevin's going to be 60. And
good, you repeated
it.
He
texted me, and he said, did you just say publicly I'm about to be 60? And I said, no, you're sexy, not 60.
But for those of you keeping score at home, he did just say it again. So there you go, Kevin.
Because honestly, how old do you think Kevin looks?
Kevin, I have known, how many years? I've known Kevin as long as I've known you.
Sure.
Kevin has not aged a day
in
all that time, and it's freaky because he has an adult son. You guys have a son
who's 38,
who has aged older, and his dad has stayed exactly the same. It's creepy. It is
Kevin
creepy.
Still looks 45.
Yeah, there's a Dorian Gray portrait somewhere of Kevin that ages, and we should all have his genes. God bless him. That's what I say about Kevin. But Frank, you look pretty good too.
Yeah,
you've kept your looks.
Only my doctors know how that happens. Kevin's never had anything, although he did finally.
Kevin is not going to let you in the house tonight.
He's needle phobic, and so he would not do Botox forever. And he finally, like 2 years ago, literally at 56, I think, finally had a little Botox, and he loves it. But he didn't even need it; he just did it.
Okay, my Botox story. Once my doctor had been my GP, and then he went into skincare and all of that, but I still held on to him as my regular doctor because I hate to make changes, obviously. And so he one day said to me, we've got a vial. I guess when you make Botox, if you don't use it all, it doesn't keep good, and you only. So he was like, we have some left. Do you want some Botox? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, well, we can just try it, see what you think. So they gave, and it was right before we did the last season of Manner of Speaking, and on the TV show I used to host. And so they gave it to me in my brow. And it made my eyebrow go up. And on the first few episodes of it looks like I'm an evil villain with like this kicked up eyebrow the whole time. Never did it again. That was my one time.
Men have to be careful with Botox. It can feminize you a little bit.
I'm aging gracefully.
Yeah.
Celeste, have you ever succumbed?
No.
Oh, stop. Don't ask a lady about
No,
that stuff.
I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Exactly. I agree
Never
with you.
even heard of such a thing.
But we want to thank you for joining us on Hello Houston, where Ernie talks. And instead of Hello Houston, where Houston talks.
What is today's date?
Today is April 2nd.
You didn't say it
2026.
yesterday,
I
did
didn't say
you?
it. Yesterday was April Fool's
But
Day.
did you say it? I don't think we said it
we didn't
yesterday.
talk about
But you know why it's important today is April 2nd?
Why?
It is my mom's 91st birthday.
Oh, my gosh.
So happy birthday, Mom.
Happy birthday, Mom.
Isn't that cool?
She's so sweet.
She is a 91. We were talking
Wow.
about with the doctor about, youthful and staying young and all of that. And unfortunately, as we've mentioned on the show, she deals with dementia. But as far as being like vibrant and
Yes.
alive and doing things.
Still laughing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh,
still
she's
laughing.
fantastic. Yeah.
But anyway, how's the
Absolutely.
weather, Frank?
Well, there's some showers up around College Station to the north of us, and it's a little cloudy out there. And if you look at the forecast, it's going to be cloudy with a chance of showers until Tuesday. So it's a matter of how much. There's a front that's going to come through Saturday night. That's the best chance of rain at 80%. Until then, 30%, 40% chance.
But I have a quick question. We were talking about the date, and yesterday was April 1st, April Fools. And I'm curious if you all do or like April Fools.
I hate it.
I do too.
I am fine with doing pranks on people. I hate being pranked. So I'm like
That is the most Ernie thing ever. I
think-
love pranking people, but
I
don't
still
you
wanna be
dare
pranked.
prank me.
Yeah.
Right. I think it came about when Julius Caesar changed the calendar. And so, because, people didn't really know what time was back then. And he changed the calendar to get more of the Julian calendar.
Right.
And people were still thinking it was March when, according to the new calendar, it was April. So they were April fooled because they still thought it was March. I think that's, sometimes I talk out of my ear, and I should have looked that up. But I think if you
well,
look,
you know
don't
what?
worry,
Somebody
we'll
will
get it.
point it out.
our producers will look it up. I think
Don't
that's
worry,
how, I think
we'll
that's
get
how
an
it was.
email.
But it didn't start as actually pranking people. People were actually fooled by the calendar having changed.
Yeah.
But my sister used to do things like I broke my arm. I'm on the way to the ER. I'm like, oh my God, I'll meet you there. Oh, April Fools. I'm like, that is so mean and stupid.
Yeah.
Why would you ever say that? So The Boy Who Cried Wolf always stuck with me, and I never liked April Fools.
Well, it was interesting because yesterday, I was with my kids and Philip goes, Mommy, today was April Fool's and we didn't do any fools. And I was like, oh, okay. And he goes, yeah. And so he takes a deep breath and he's like, Mommy, there's green all over your face.
I love your kids.
Well, Amy Davis at Channel 2 did pull one on all of us. She put this big box of Shipley donuts, of Krispy Kreme donuts out, and you'd go to open it, and it was full of vegetables.
Oh, that's a good one.
So they had a camera on it, and so then they put a montage together of all of us that got tricked.
That would have made our guest in the first hour of the show very happy.
Very
the doctor
happy.
that was there talking about heart health.
Yes, that was a
and
cute
also
one.
we did talk a bit in the first hour about Artemis and watching that go off and what a thrill it was and bring us all together. It always reminds me that in today's day of streaming television and you decide what you want to see and when you want to see it, it's so rare that we have those moments where everyone comes together. A Super Bowl, maybe with the Rockets the other day or the UH basketball team the other day, we all come together. But something like that launch was something that people all across the country, all across maybe even the globe, stopped for a moment.
It brings optimism to everyone and hope. And you look at it in wonder, as we talked about, and it just, I think, pulls you together a little bit more as a people. And that, for God's sakes, is what we need.
Right. And we felt that, again, that human experience of achievement, feeling like, we did this. We all
as
did
a
it together.
group, as a team, as humans, not as not as you or you or you or you or you, but as a people.
On a mission.
Yeah, it has all the right things, doesn't it?
It really does.
All the right moves.
Well, we have a
That's
lot.
right.
We have a lot of
Okay.
right moves coming up in the show today. We want to know your current obsessions. What is keeping you up at night? What are you chatting with your friends about? Share them with us. It's coming up later in the show. You can either call or text them in at 713-440-8870. You can email them to us at talk@hellohouston.org or over on our YouTube. Our YouTubers are chatting away today. You can join them and share it there, and we'll mention them to you all. All of that being said, but the other thing that's going on today is headlines. They continue.
Civil rights organizers, activists, and immigrant advocates turned out in force at the Houston City Hall on Tuesday to speak in favor of a city council proposal intended to curtail coordination between the Houston Police Department and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. On March 19th, council members Alejandra Salinas, Edward Pollard, and Abby Kamen announced their push for an ordinance with 3 components. Number 1, removing a requirement that HPD officers contact ICE about civil immigration warrants. Number 2, prohibiting officers from detaining people solely due to those warrants. And the 3rd, requiring Mayor John Whitmire's administration to regularly update the public about local immigration enforcement. Last week, the city's legal department determined officers must contact ICE about all warrants. Salinas, Pollard, and Kamen criticized the finding, but revised the proposed ordinance to remove officer discretion. More than 100 people signed up to speak about the proposal during the public comment session Tuesday evening. The vast majority were in favor, with a small handful opposing the measure. What are your thoughts about the revised ordinance? Are you in favor or against this? Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston, 713-440-8870.
I'm for it.
Yeah.
There were people that were having automobile accidents and running from the scene because they were afraid that HPD would come to the scene and then have to call ICE to be there. And for whatever reason, they could have been very, very innocent. They could have been citizens for all I know.
Right.
They didn't want to deal with it. So if we have people that are that afraid of ICE that they are jeopardizing their own lives because of it, or their own health or safety, then I think that is a problem.
And I think, Frank, you're hitting the core question here. Does limiting the cooperation with ICE make communities safer? Because when you have Houston Police Department, seeming like they are in coordination, working with ICE, I think the question becomes, there's also, how does it affect trust or distrust of police within our community at a local level? And then the other part of it is how does it hinder law enforcement's ability to do their job? If a police officer is there for one thing and now they're having to deal with another thing.
Or to your point, the police don't even get called when they need to be, because you call the police, then they're going to call ICE, and that's going to be a bigger problem.
Right.
And so,
which we also know that within minority groups, there's already a very low rate of calling in law enforcement because of that reason.
Yeah, no, I think I hope this passes.
Yeah, and again, 713-440-8870. Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston.
Just another thing, and it's just coming in. We're just noticing it. And Celeste, you mentioned it right before we started into the headlines in a chat with us, is that about Pam Bondi.
Yes.
Pam Bondi has, according to Fox News and other sources, has already been fired.
NBC News says she's been fired.
Yep, as Attorney General.
Epstein files is the reason why.
Cabinet officials are teeing up a replacement. They're looking at EPA Director Lee Zeldin is reportedly going to be filling that role. That is just happening as we're chatting right now.
But, she's been in that position to do whatever Trump wanted her to do. Mm-hmm. I mean, he sent her remember that tweet that he made?
That went public?
Yeah. And Pam, what's going on? You need to go after Comey. You need to go after Letitia.
His enemies list.
You're waiting. Yeah, the enemies list. You're waiting too long. Well, if that's the person you work for, and it is
But
contrary.
that's not the person she works for. That's the problem.
That is the problem.
Right.
But that's the person who appoints you and hires and fires you. That's the person you work for.
Right, but it's the Attorney General of the United States, not the Attorney General of Donald Trump.
That's been tradition.
Right. Well, no, it's not even just tradition. It's the law.
But if he can fire her, then it's not the law.
Well,
it's not a good law. I mean, if he has that power, he has too much power.
But after her performances in front of Congress and everything that's been going on.
That's what I was going to say. I mean,
Well, he's blaming the Epstein file thing on her.
I mean, her response, the way she was extremely controversial.
Her burn book.
The tone. When you watch those hearings, you expect some level of coming to the table ready to be a part of a of a law. And it was it was painful to watch in that it was that controversial. It was
Talking
that
about
terrible.
who you work for. She works for the American people, coming before Congress and then going after each person who asked her a question. There were the moments. She's like, no, you're here to answer our questions. Well, what about when you did this back on that day? You know, it was just, you knew then.
I mean,
her days
whenever
were
she
limited.
yelled, I don't remember exactly who she yelled at, but she literally yelled at an elected official and said, "You're a washed-up loser lawyer." You know, when you're talking like that, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
713-440-8870. What are your reactions to either of the stories we're already talking about? The Pam Bondi ousting. What do you think as Attorney General?
Well, I know. And what will happen with the Epstein files? We haven't heard about those in a while.
There's been a lot going on.
Yeah, there's been so much going on.
Yeah.
So will a new Attorney General be more forthcoming with the Epstein files? And if we'll see who the new Attorney General
Lee
works
Zeldin
for.
is another Trump. I don't want to use the term sycophant, but I guess I just did. And he's very much in the Trump camp and the Trump ideology. And so the assumption is it will be more in line with what Donald Trump wants, not less in line, where we thought Pam Bondi was pretty much in line.
Well, he's not going to appoint somebody less in line, that's for sure.
Right.
I mean,
And again, 713-440-8870. You're listening to Hello Houston. You can call or text.
I have a story to go into. I'm just wondering if I have enough time to go into it because I really want us to talk about it. So I think I'm going to do it, though. Hold on. I'm looking at my messages coming in. Okay. You know what? I'm going to go to tidbits instead of going into the story, and we'll save it because it's a good one. But, okay. Easter. We mentioned Easter a little bit. Here's one for you. Costco is selling a 10-pound chocolate bunny for more than $100. It's Pete the Bunny.
Can we get that doctor back in here?
Would you buy it?
Is it processed or ultra processed?
Yeah. What do you think? Giant 10-pound chocolate bunny center of your Easter table. You doing it? You're not doing it.
I'm not doing it. But the what are the caramel what are the eggs that are so good?
Cadbury?
Cadbury.
There
I
you
love
go.
those.
Isn't it funny? That's the stuff I know.
I love Cadbury eggs. Yeah, you know that.
Well, and the funny thing is there's a set price on this, but people you're seeing this price fluctuate because there's not enough available, and so it's going up in price and all over. Yeah, you can find it anywhere from a little over $100 to almost $150. You know what the market will bear for a giant chocolate rabbit.
Speaking of Easter, can I mention that I've been telling you I think Greek Orthodox Easter, which is a week from Sunday, is like
year.
the real Easter because it's calculated differently and it follows a stricter formula based on the Julian calendar. And if we were just talking about the Julian calendar. And so Easter has to occur after Jewish Passover because the Last Supper was a Seder supper.
Right.
So, and then the crucifixion occurred. So it makes sense that Easter occurred after Passover because Jesus was acknowledging Passover. Well, Passover started yesterday, but it doesn't end for another week. And so Greek Easter, after the end of Passover, is the proper Easter.
Well, thank you for that, Frank. But it also has to do with where the moon is. There's a whole lot of stuff.
Well, that has to do with Easter and then Lent, and Mardi Gras, and all of that.
But we have to make sure that first Passover and the first full moon of the something, or I can't even keep track of it. But
I think
it's all
both
over the
Easters are
place.
in line with the moon.
Yeah.
So this is more about when did Passover happen. Now, Jesus' Passover was one night. So you could argue that when that one night of Passover, which was April 1st, the Easter can take place right after that.
Yeah.
Others would say no, Passover lasts for 10 days, and then Easter should occur after that, which is why Greek Easter does. Now, I'm not a Greek. You are.
I'm a Greek. We can have it all the way up until May. We are all over the place with Easter.
Tomorrow Tomorrow is Good Friday. We will have, back from last Easter, Sean Palmer teaching.
Oh, is he coming back out?
Pastor will be back.
So tell him to
Hello
come prepared
Houston.
to answer that question.
And he
He's
can probably,
going to answer all of our
knows
Easter
it.
questions, Good Friday questions, Passover questions. He's going to be here just to chat about this season and what it means. So.
And you went into the theology of it all. I want to go back to the chocolate of it all because we were talking about that expensive Costco 10-pound rabbit. Well, Hershey's chocolate has said that they're going to go back to their recipes that uses more chocolate in Reese's products after the peanut butter cup inventor's grandson, Brad Reese, I didn't know that there was a Reese family behind that,
I know the
publicly complained about cost-cutting changes, that there weren't enough chocolate in Reese's products anymore. So they're actually going to change it. Proof that sometimes complaining on social media does work.
Yeah, I think it does
I
work
love
sometimes.
Reese's butter. I think Reese's peanut butter cups are like the number one Halloween candy that people like.
Well, they're going to have more chocolate in them.
But I have noticed lately.
Have you noticed they have less chocolate?
No, I've noticed that like if they do a Reese's candy in like the shape of a rabbit,
a bunny,
or something, it's not as good.
No.
The standard Reese's cup is the best.
Well, all of that buying up and cost cutting. Well, thank God there's going to be more chocolate in your Reese's. And if that's not enough, Costco still has a 10-pound rabbit for you.
But coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to hear my conversation while I was at CERAWeek S&P Global last week on the big push to build a workforce that is needed for the AI energy boom. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
The right has made it a goal to reform higher education, but even within that movement, there are disagreements.
The wrong kind of conservative in some of these places is going to trip the same wires that some of the, left-leaning faculty members and curricula had been tripping.
The right's academic civil war. That's next time on Think.
Hey, it's Francis Lamb, host of The Splendid Table. This week is a live event on the world-changing food scene of Los Angeles. From the iconic host of a radio show chronicling the food there to a young pair of metalhead taco chefs, it's the breadth of eating in LA. That's coming up on The Splendid Table.
You can hear The Splendid Table. It's on this Sunday at noon.
That cute little indie coffee shop, the one you love so much, might not actually be so indie after all.
People want to take fewer risks when it comes into developing these concepts in these areas, and so you're not going to have as many mom-and-pop cafe shops.
I'm Kai Rizdal. Why is everything a chain now? That's next time on Marketplace.
You can listen to Marketplace later today at 6:30.
Support comes from Pearland, Texas, a community supporting innovation in business, science, healthcare, energy, and inspiring their citizens. More on innovation happening in Pearland at pearlandedc.com. Pearland, innovation lives here. Support comes from Base Power. As hurricane season approaches, Base offers energy plans with automatic whole home battery backup with new extended outage protection. Eligibility details at basepower.com/NPR.
And now back to Hello Houston. Join the conversation. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
Last week, I spent time at the major energy conference, CERAWeek S&P Global, where global leaders gathered to map out the future of energy and technology, with one interview really examining a new partnership focusing on a critical piece of that future. The workforce behind it, AI. Adaptive Construction Solutions is teaming up with NVIDIA, and their plan is to train up to 10,000 apprentices to help build AI infrastructure, modernize the grid, and support electrification efforts across the U.S. Here's my interview at CERAWeek S&P Global. I'm here with Marc Spieler, the Senior Managing Director of Energy at NVIDIA. As well with Paul Champion, who is with the Adaptive Construction Solutions. And y'all are going to talk to me a little about this partnership and teaming up together. And Marc, I want to start with you first. CERAWeek is all about the future of energy and where energy is going. A huge component and a conversation that we're seeing more and more is about artificial intelligence. And I want you to talk to us about where does this partnership with Adaptive Construction Solutions really fit into the bigger picture of this conversation?
Sure. Happy to do that. Thank you first for hosting us and having us here.
Yeah.
NVIDIA is an accelerated platform computing company. And as we help deliver AI solutions to the industry, we look at all levels of AI, and the foundational level of AI starts with energy, right? Energy is the input to making tokens or units of knowledge in artificial intelligence. So we're at CERAWeek because we've been involved in the energy.
I'm here with Marc Spieler, the Senior Managing Director of Energy at NVIDIA, as well with Paul Champion, who is with the Adaptive Construction Solutions. And y'all are going to talk to me a little about this partnership and teaming up together. And Marc, I want to start with you first. CERAWeek is all about the future of energy and where energy is going. A huge component and a conversation that we're seeing more and more is about artificial intelligence. And I want you to talk to us about where does this partnership with Adaptive Construction Solutions really fit into the bigger picture of this conversation?
Sure, happy to do that. Thank you first for hosting us and having us here.
Yeah.
NVIDIA is an accelerated platform computing company, and as we help deliver AI solutions to the industry, we look at all levels of AI, and the foundational level of AI starts with energy, right? Energy is the input to making tokens or units of knowledge in artificial intelligence. So we're at CERAWeek because we've been involved in the energy industry for many years using AI to help solve energy problems, but now we need energy to help create the environments to create more AI. And so it's really important for us as an organization to make sure that we create the ecosystem of partners that are required to help us create the energy and the infrastructure that's needed to have AI continue to grow at the rate that the world's going to need it.
Right. And so, Paul, talk to me about where the Adaptive Construction Solutions steps in to this conversation. What problems you all are trying to solve?
Yeah, I think one of the key things that I'm hearing at CERAWeek is exactly why NVIDIA and ACS have sort of come together. Is that everybody talks about permitting and talk about all that sort of stuff and planning, and the way that I look at it and the way we look at it at ACS as well is that if you don't build a building because you don't have the staff, connectivity, doesn't really matter if you haven't got the building or the infrastructure to connect it. And I think one of the things that I feel we're playing an important part and will play an important part is being able to work with Marc and NVIDIA, sort of looking at their supply chain and then being able to understand where that supply chain has some difficulties with labor and workforce and skills. And apprenticeships, which is what we do, is a perfect answer to support that. What we like to say is that apprenticeship innovation is AI 1.0.
Right. You're talking about workforce here. And obviously, we're seeing this trend where the U.S. is facing a massive construction labor shortage. What is a key driving factor to this gap right now that y'all are seeing?
I mean, I can have a discussion about a fourth expert.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think there's so many things. I mean, if you think back at infrastructure construction that's gone on for many years, all of those people that are out there with skills are already doing those jobs, and people are fighting over those people. The other thing is, as well as that, there hasn't been a huge amount of training of people doing construction, doing those people that are knee deep in mud building stuff, and I think you've got a lot of people retiring. So also what you have is a lot of people who have a certain level of skill, and that's what they do all of their lives. Apprenticeships and one of the key things is how do we get those people to lift the level of skill they have so that they can take the jobs that people are retiring from. Especially young people. How do you give them a clear line of sight to I can do this and earn this amount of money, because after all that's why people are working. So it's multifaceted. It's not one reason, but people retiring, people not being able to move up the chain. The demand is so high. People having to pay more wages. There's lots of things that go towards the gaps that are there.
And Paul, you talk about just overall, this is a multifaceted issue. And we often hear about the lack of skills when we are talking about AI and the workforce. In practical terms, what are you seeing when the word skills comes up?
In the conference?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you exactly what we're seeing. There's 12 sessions that are all about workforce in the whole conference. And I keep on hearing people who are doing PhDs and wondering, what should I change my PhD in to fit for the future workforce?
Okay.
But nobody talks about the actual skills that need to build the AI
Correct.
factories or the energy provision to power them. I think at the conference, we did a presentation this morning, and I was imploring people to sort of think about skills from the bottom up over, in essence, not from the top down over, because if you start from the top down over, you never reach the place where the skills gaps are.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great point, Paul. As we bring more manufacturing and more industrial back to the United States specifically, we're going to have a labor shortage, right? We're going to have a shortage of skilled laborers. And, we often hear that plumbers and electricians and all of these skilled laborers are going to be able to make six-figure incomes in the future. The reason for that and the importance of that is because there's limited resources today. So what we have to do is we have to bring next generation of workforce many, many more times than we've done in the last few years to the American workforce that have the skills to do electricity and plumbing and steel erection and racking and stacking of servers and compute centers and things like that may not be taught in traditional trades today.
Which I think that, Mark, that brings me perfectly into my next question, which NVIDIA isn't a traditional workforce type training company.
Right.
So is this essentially why y'all are stepping into this space right now?
So we are very much a partner ecosystem company.
Okay.
Everything we do, we leverage partnerships for. Why? Because our technology, our silicon, our chips, and our software stacks is great. But if you don't build the infrastructure, the buildings and the AI factories to deliver it, it can't be deployed at scale. And so we haven't in the past, we've partnered with EPC companies and all of that, but we recognize that they even have labor shortages in building. And we've had a few announcements here on nuclear. And as we start to build nuclear in this country, we're going to need more skilled laborers for nuclear and other types of energy. ACS is well positioned with their apprenticeship programs and the amount of apprentices they've put into the workforce in the past in some of these fields to continue to train that next generation of workforce and take very skilled, capable people that have not been in these trades before and train them. So we have a training program, but we're training people how to develop AI from a computer science and a programming perspective. Now we're going to give them access to our models and our blueprints of how to build out infrastructure and how to do infrastructure laid out in the way that's most efficient. Let them train the skilled labor and then deploy them with the large EPC companies that are going out and building AI factories at scale across the country, but also hopefully to the utility companies that are looking for linemen and other skilled labor to help deploy these type of infrastructure.
So we really are seeing this intersection of a bottleneck, essentially, that we keep
100%.
hitting.
I think one of the things that Mark said is really important is that, that NVIDIA is a partnering organization. So in the partner so that NVIDIA can get on with what they're great at.
Which I was going to ask you, Mark, is this something NVIDIA is already feeling, essentially, the demand for AI as AI infrastructure grows? Are y'all feeling that we need this workforce?
100%. And Jensen has talked publicly about the need for more and more skilled labor to come into this industry. And so this is our way of helping to prepare the workforce for our partners who actually go and build these type of infrastructure, right? We feel we have the capabilities to take the existing trades that they know, give them the more detailed aspects of what's required in an AI factory to make it as energy efficient. Our whole goal is efficiency, performance per watt, performance per dollar. And that comes down to, is there a workforce out there capable of doing things right the first time, are skilled and can deploy facilities faster because they're trained the proper way?
Paul, walk me through it from practical terms for people that are listening. How does someone become one of these or take on one of these apprenticeships?
Yeah, I think one thing to talk about is that, as NVIDIA partners with the people who can do their job really well, we're very similar in the sense of that people partner with us because we do from soup to nuts, if you like. We sort of walk people through what an apprenticeship is, work with companies who already have existing staff that need to be on apprenticeship to upskill. We help recruit them. We help find the journey workers that support them. We deliver the related instruction that needs to be done, but on site, so that there's less disruption to the workforce themselves. We never take them off site to do the related instruction. We also monitor and manage all of the administration that needs to be done for the DOL and for our registered apprenticeship program. So in essence, what we like to say is to use an NVIDIA term, I guess, we hide the wiring. You know what I mean? And I think people love that fact.
But, I think a big question around this, and when we're talking about artificial intelligence and you have the connection to workforce, is access. Can someone without a degree or construction background realistically enter into this type of pipeline?
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. You're talking about a lot of the apprentices that ACS trains and deploys are veterans, people who have come out of the military service, right? These are very capable individuals who are looking for their next opportunity. They may not have a college degree, but they're very smart individuals. They're very disciplined. They show up and they work hard. And that is what these skilled labor forces need. And we're going to give them the opportunity to come in and get the proper training and understanding and be prepared to make a very lucrative career out of building things for this country. It's going to be amazing.
Right. And from what I understand, this apprenticeship program, y'all are aiming up to 10,000 apprentices.
10,000 apprentices. And I mean, that's a huge number to aim for, but it's completely achievable with a partner like NVIDIA and the excellent EPCs and construction companies that they work with. I mean, who doesn't sit up and listen when NVIDIA says, hey guys, you need skills. You're working with us, you need the skills. And when you said about how do people get in without degrees, it's all about access. It's all about understanding the access. And I think, again, and I think we have to say this, when you're working in partnership with NVIDIA, people read stuff that they wouldn't normally read about things that they don't understand. So, I mean, we're sitting here now.
And I think, though, scaling something like this with two different organizations seems ambitious, but it also seems like it could be done if it's done well. How are you all going to make sure that you are able to scale and execute and complete all 10,000 apprenticeships?
So I'll let Paul respond in just a second with how many apprentices he's already deployed into the industry in other trades, right? So they've done this before. They're very good at it. And I forgot how many times, Paul will probably tell us about how many times the Department of Labor recognizes them, or different workforce commissioners recognize them and their apprentices. But this is not new to NVIDIA either. We have what's called the Deep Learning Institute, and we provide curriculum to train classes, and we have what's called ambassadors on university campuses that are partners with NVIDIA, where they train on NVIDIA curriculum at universities on our AI platforms. So we've done this already for people who are getting the 4-year college degrees and are going into computer programming and AI. Now we're going to take the other side of this, the infrastructure and the requirements for land, power, and cooling, let's say, and we're going to give that access to that to ACS so that they can take that curriculum and combine it with their expertise in those areas and take it to the next generation of skilled physical labor.
So, Marc, then 5 to 10 years from now, do you think that this is going to be a blueprint of being able to model out building the AI workforce?
Absolutely. I think we've got to go at it from both directions. One, from the software perspective, who's going to be building the software and the capabilities to create the AI. But before you can even do that, you got to build the facilities, right? And I think Paul touched on that earlier, right? It starts with energy, and then it comes down to infrastructure. Before you can ever get to the models and the software, you have to have the energy, you have to have the chips, which we build, the infrastructure, which large EPCs, the large companies like GE, Vernova, and Siemens Energy, and all those will build infrastructure. But then the EPCs put that together to create these AI factories. But Paul and the team at ACS are going to provide the labor workforce trained to help them do it faster and more efficiently and safer.
And Paul, this is all happening in real time. A lot of these conversations and decisions, for someone who's listening right now and looking for opportunities, what should they be looking for and where can they go?
I think they've got to start thinking about what does the future hold. Do you know what I mean? Where go it? What's that great American saying about I say go where the puck's heading, not where it is. And I think we have to do that. I think for employers in particular, I think what they have to do is they have to start realizing, accepting that there is a skills crisis. There's a workforce crisis. No point thinking about it after the fact. You've got to start thinking about it now. And I give everybody a challenge. One challenge, the employers, is every time you open that filing cabinet and take a job description out of that drawer because you need to hire somebody, ask yourself, can an apprentice do this?
You just heard my interview with Paul Champion, the Chief Operating Officer at Adaptive Construction Solutions, and Marc Spieler, NVIDIA's Senior Director of Energy. But coming up, our current obsessions, and we see that you have already started sending in yours. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
Climate One, Benji Backer made a name for himself as a conservative who wanted to bring other conservatives into climate action, but realized he needed to build an even bigger tent.
In today's politics, it's us versus them all the time. And so if you're just focused on conservatives, it doesn't really get us there.
Benji Backer, Nature is Nonpartisan, on the next Climate One.
Listen Sunday morning at 6 o'clock.
Morning Edition takes you across this country and around the world with stories that keep you informed and the context to understand what matters. The news comes at you quickly, but we slow it down to examine each story from different angles and give perspective on what might happen next. A brand new day comes with new possibilities and a new edition of Morning Edition from NPR News.
Morning Edition, weekdays 5 to 9 a.m. on News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Houston Parks Board, celebrating 50 years of expanding, improving, and protecting parks and green space in the Houston region. Learn more at houstonparksboard.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro, introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
It is Thursday,
Yes.
12:46:58, and you know what time?
She's very exact today.
You know what that means.
What does it mean, Celeste?
It's time for our current obsessions.
Yes, current obsessions.
Okay, so before we jump into ours, let's see. One of the top trending items now on X is the Super Mario Galaxy movie. That's going to be exciting to see.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm definitely taking my kiddos. What are you guys obsessed with?
Okay, I got a weird one for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Paddington Bear the musical has opened on the West End
of London.
And
okay,
the bear, Paddington,
yeah,
is this amazing puppet that dances and sings, and it's just fascinating. If you get a chance, look online at it. I saw it at first. I thought, is that CGI? And it's like, no, it's live on stage. How do they do this?
Pretty cool.
And it's some Jim Henson puppetry technology that uses in the head to make the eyes move and the eyebrows, and it smiles and it talks. It is fascinating, and there's a person inside the costume that does the movements in the body, but has no control over the face, and that's done by other people somewhere else, and the person controlling the face is actually doing the voice and singing.
And Melania brought out a regular old robot.
And hers just, with that voice it had. That was my obsession
Ernie,
last week.
You've had a lot. I feel like you have a little bit of an obsession with robots. You told us about the Disney robot.
Oh, the poor little Olaf. came out. Kids were waiting to see this new robot of Olaf that came out, and they're all there. And the thing comes out, freaks out, falls over, nose breaks, and the kids all scream because it looks like it died. The poor kid. All right,
Yes.
why I'm obsessed with robots. When I was a kid, there was a robot that came out called Clay 2, and you could buy it. It was from like the Zenith Corporation made him. And that's what I wanted for Christmas, and they didn't buy it for me. And we had a movie theater. I used to say, Dad, it'd be great. It could take tickets at the theater. People would come to see it. It turned out it was a scam. Somebody was remote control operating it.
Yeah.
But that was one
We
thing
had
from my
Zenith
childhood.
TVs when I was growing up.
Yeah, but the Zenith Corporation.
Okay, Frank.
Oh, recipes. Kevin and I, we do our best to find a different kind of place to eat every Wednesday night.
You posted a great picture last night.
Oh,
Where
yeah.
did you
We were
go?
at we were at number 28 in Highland Village.
It looked delicious.
Amazing.
It
Amazing.
looks so good.
Yes. So, but on Tuesday nights, we cook at home. Well, he cooks at home.
I was going to say
But
we.
now that I'm retiring, he's told me that I'm going to have to start cooking at home too.
Yes.
So I have a feeling that Crock-Pot is your friend.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
So I've been going through all of the New York Times recipes for easy Crock-Pot recipes. So if you
I
got
love
one,
that.
let me know.
Do you have an Instant Pot or pressure cooker?
No.
Get one of those because it's both ends. It's either
So-
take forever to cook it or cook it really fast.
I have a little tidbit about Ernie that I learned when I first started working here.
I have
And it
that
is
too, but I can't talk
that
about it.
Ernie loves kitchen gadgets.
Oh my Lord!
So every little kitchen, like the
I got 'em
Ninja
all.
ice cream, the Ninja
Yeah.
Scoopy, whatever you want to call it, you have them all.
Yeah. We had someone on the show before, a dietitian, and her and I had talked years ago about writing a cookbook called What a Crock. And it was going to be all my crock-pot recipes. So I'm going to share with you some of the recipes for my crock-pot.
She and I. But yeah, what
She
are you
and
going
I.
to do without me?
Be grammatically incorrect every day.
Every day.
That's what I would do.
Yes.
So Celeste, you're in the hot seat.
Yes.
What is my current obsession? My current obsession right now is Easter. Everything in my house is Easter.
Oh, are you all
Easter, Easter.
decorated
We
out?
Decorated. We do the little eggs. We do Easter. We're going to pack them. We have Easter egg hunts scheduled Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You name it. It's all Easter. It's my obsession.
713-440-8870. We want you to call in and share your obsessions. Or if you're obsessed like Kineto is obsessed with, I'm currently obsessed with media personalities who are leaving talk shows after a couple of years. Sad to see friendly faces and great voices going on to other things. If you would like to talk to that supposed host who is leaving us, give us a call, 713-440-8870.
Give us a call.
But share
And-
your obsessions.
And as Frank mentioned, tomorrow is his last day. So if you want to call tomorrow, you can also call 713-440-8870.
We'll turn Good Friday into a Great Friday.
Yes, and you can chat with Frank.
You know, we don't call it Good Friday. It's Holy Friday.
It
Because
should be
as
Holy
I
Friday.
was raised to be told, the death of our Lord, there's nothing good about that.
Well, but he saved you from hell, so that's good.
But that was on Sunday. He had a rise.
Yeah, well, that was the run up to it.
Anyway, we'll talk about all that
like I had
tomorrow on the show. Come on,
another
what are some other
obsession.
ones? Celeste, look at the chats. Tell me what folks are
What
telling
is
me.
Somebody, you'll love this,
What?
Ernie. We had a text. My current obsession has been binge watching all seasons of Downton Abbey via Passport.
I was going to read that. Yes.
Downton Abbey is
the good
back
one.
on Sunday nights on TV8, and so you can watch it. They started it from the beginning. I do believe we're on the third episode now.
Did they
but-
follow it with Manner of Speaking?
Well, first of all, Manner of Speaking didn't join until the third season.
They should join.
Season 1 and 2, we didn't have it.
They should have it. That was your idea, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a whole long story about that, but we won't go into that now. No, it was a combination of ideas. The thought was Downton Abbey was doing so well. What could we do to add on to that? And there were some different ideas kicked around, and mine was let's do an after show, and that's where it came from. But no, it's not airing after it. I don't know if there'll be a chance for it. One of the problems with that too is that in the original run, a couple times they would lump episodes together, be a special night of 2 episodes,
I
or there'd
remember
be
that.
this and that.
Oh.
And when that happened, we would only have 1 episode,
Right,
so
right.
it throws off kind of the flow of it.
We also did get Noah Espinosa says, I'm still obsessed with Pokemon, y'all.
Yeah.
I put 80 hours in last month. I'm supposed to be a grown-up. I want to understand Pokemon. My son is kind of getting into that.
Yeah.
So
I don't
Noah,
get it either. Well, our son was into it.
Okay.
And he's 38 now.
Yeah.
But no, when he was 8, 9, 10 years old, and I tried to get into it. I still
I
don't
need to
understand the
Ming, who
goal.
works here on the second floor, he's still very into it and goes to events for it and the big things throughout the city and the geocasting for it or whatever. I'm saying it all wrong. What else have you got for us, Celeste? What are
Sean Radigan says, everybody tell their favorite Frank story. Oh, we could do a favorite Frank segment.
Maybe we shouldn't take phone calls.
I was going to say, give me a call. I'll tell you my favorite
Who's
Frank
going to
story.
screen those calls tomorrow?
Nah.
That's funny. Resident 8, Resident 8 says, one of my favorite past obsessions was serving others in the community and various shelters, nonprofits across Houston. There are so many. That's true. There are so many.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's a good thing to do Easter Sunday. You can help and give meals out. And
Well,
stuff to
Alex,
organizations
who's
do
been
that.
with us from, I think, almost the beginning.
Day one.
Alex Garza photo. Last week was Easter dress shopping.
Yep.
That is done. Now getting all of my thank you cards written and sent.
Oh.
Why are you thanking people? What happened?
It was her birthday.
Birthday.
Was it
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, her birthday party's coming
Well,
up.
I wasn't invited to any birthday party.
Yes, you were.
Oh, okay.
But, sending thank you cards, I want to do that. And every so often I get that hankering and I go and I buy the cards and then I still don't ever do it. And I want to do it after every time I'm invited to some event or someone's home. And I buy and I just never do it. And it's because I think my penmanship is so poor and my spelling is so lousy that it would be an embarrassment. Somebody said nobody cares about that.
Well,
Just do it.
you should do it because your penmanship is going to get lousier the older you get. I can tell
really?
you that, yes, because we don't practice it as much. I mean, really, we don't. I know.
What makes you think that?
Yeah, so it's bad to begin with. And I'm like that. I write script and print when I write something.
Yeah.
And we just don't write as much. We type and we text and you lose it. You use it or lose it. So you should write thank you notes.
Well, we have a couple thank yous coming in for you, Frank. Resin 8 says, been watching Frank since a while. Thank you so much for your years of service to the weather and more. Frank, right next to Zindler Ward.
Well, not right next to him yet. but I'm honored.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Alex,
flattered.
okay.
I loved them both.
And Alma says, currently obsessed rewatching Peaky Blinders. I've heard that's a great one. And then we also got a text. Frank, so sad to see you go, but wishing you the very best in your retirement adventures. Your energy, humor, and compassion will be missed. What an amazing career.
What an amazing career. I was telling Kevin, I said, film I've done. We did Unbreakable Threads. Remember that little documentary?
Yeah.
So film, radio. Right? I wrote a book, so author. Network. I was on Good Morning America for a couple of weeks back in the 90s.
Multi-hyphenate.
And then KPRC. You've got Frank, F-R-A-N-K, film, radio, author, network, and KPRC, and KTRK for that matter.
Frank.
So now I've got to get LIN. What am I going to do next? I need to be in a play.
Yeah. You'll figure out the next one.
I was kind of in a play in college. I was in
I was
in Hamlet, and I was Laertes, but Hamlet was played by Grant Alexander, who was Philip Spaulding on The Guiding Light.
I know Grant Alexander.
Okay, he was
Hamlet.
Hamlet.
My God.
He was Hamlet.
You knew him?
Very well. We were very good friends.
How come you never introduced
I don't
me?
know.
I loved Guiding Light. That was my soap.
Yeah, he was
Philip
Grant
Spaulding.
Kankowski back then. Alexander was his middle name.
Oh, he was married to India von Helkind Spaulding, my favorite villain.
Well, in real life,
soaps.
he was married to Sherry Moore, who played Ophelia, and Polonius, who was my father, Laertes' father, was Rob Ashford, who's one of the most successful Broadway producers probably in our generation. So I was kind of in a Broadway show because I was with such talented people. But I'm not sure I can remember the lines anymore. If we were on an ad-lib show, I'd be fine.
Earl Grey T-Cat says, who's going to sit in the seat now?
That's it. And we probably
nobody.
talk about it tomorrow. I believe the plan is we are going to move to a 2-host vehicle with guests and visitors and all of you out there to
That's
help us
right.
along. Because
You-
Frank is irreplaceable.
You get to sit in that seat.
Somewhere in the middle
Somewhere
between
in the
those. Yeah.
I'm blocked by. You have to kind of move around to see the guests from this
all the
seat.
cameras.
And that Celeste has the best seat to see everybody.
I do have a new career, though.
Oh.
And I only have to work at it once a year. It's saying goodbye to you when you retire. Because it seems like every year I get to welcome you into
when you
retirement
did the
again.
video and when you sent your video to KPRC.
Yeah, I did that retirement. I'm doing this retirement. What's the next one you're going to retire from?
I don't know. There's nothing left for me to do. I'm still going to be emceeing and speaking.
Around town.
Are
you
we
are
out of town?
around
And eating.
that
You can see
music.
me at your favorite restaurant
All
for
right.
sure.
And that brings us to the end of our show. We want
Career.
to thank you. Not yet. We still have one more day.
One more
so
day
get
of
your
Frank.
One more day.
So get your comments ready for tomorrow. And that brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for watching and listening to Hello Houston. We're going to be back tomorrow with more conversations. We're also going to hear another interview. There's still a lot to discuss what's happening in the energy industry. And this is News 88.7. Thanks for tuning in today.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Asia Society Texas, presenting Son de l'Âme, a Houston ballet performance, choreography by Stanton Welch,